Vibration of One. You are appreciated.
So, hello. This is another installment of Vibration of the One podcast, and I am up late at night, very sleepy. I realized the last time I did it was the same time, so I wondered if that's why my voice was so mellifluously tired. I thought to do a podcast right now on veganism and the journey of that. But then I had another experience, which was taking my first qigong class. So I felt, so different. Like all of my experiences were culminating. A lot of spiritual practice was connecting the dots. So even in this moment, I think, do I want to do the vegan journey topic for the next one, actually? So I love to thank my good friend Zach for doing a introductory session, which was, I can't believe that was yesterday. And I've been practicing throughout the day in an integrated way with noticing my energy and my breath throughout the day's, not so exciting events. But I like to say that it's something that I've always been curious about, and in a nutshell, if you don't really know that much about it, you've definitely seen a bunch of older, elderly, senior, perhaps Asian men and women in a group outside in a park, right? With all of these movements. And they're all doing this in unison, and it's quite intriguing, to say the least. I know I was intrigued by that first time I saw it. And so, in that curiosity, it has led me to try many different things in books and try different things that have come up in conversation. There's just a lot to unpack in the sense that I did not find these things going directly to a class or going directly to a teacher. It's taken me this long to get one. Through my journey, let me just say, it began firstly with reading a book by James Redfield, I believe the name is, which was called what was that called again? That's Celestine Prophecy. Yes, so in that time, I believe it was 2004, I had just helped somebody with cleaning out what used to be, funnily enough, what could be called a New Age bookstore, and I was being paid to help move all these unsold books. And so in that, job, I took a break every once in a while, and I leafed through whatever was around me, and I noticed there were a few of these green books that said Celestine Prophecy on the front, and I thought, what is that? Prophecy? What is Celestine? What is this? So I leafed through it, and then the person that I was helping move these books said, hey, seems like that's tickling your fancy, so if you want to take one, be my guest. You know, there's a couple around. And quite shyly, I was happy enough to take them up on their offer. And so that's where the energy lessons began. Put it in a nutshell without giving too much away from this book, if you haven't read it, to go into my own experience and leave professional criticisms aside. You know, I wasn't that much reading many books at that time, although I'd mention in that period of time I had no television, I had no computer. I lived downtown. It's the first time I lived downtown in the city of Toronto with a significant other at the time. And I had been working 2 jobs. I was working at a late night bar with DJs playing all night, and I also worked at a hair salon, funnily enough. And so through the day, if I had time off, I was either sleeping and recuperating, getting ready to go to the next thing the next day, or I was doing my best to relax and find some kind of peace between, you know, making the rent and feeling like my life was just an ongoing conveyor belt of activity. And so I happened upon this book, and it was bringing me many synchronicities. I didn't even know what that word was at the time. Remember, there was a passage within it where I was outside reading under a tree, and it was talking about the energy fields around and how basically we connect to them, and our awareness of them heightens the connection. And I had quite a never-ending story-like moment where I was reading the book, and it was saying something about looking at the energy fields in a tree, and I happened to be under a tree, so I looked and followed what the book was saying. In parallel to what the character was experiencing, I was also experiencing it in the location where I was reading it. And in that moment, a huge amount of leaves, it was the autumn season, flew my way and kind of hit me, brushed me in the face as I was realizing I could see or sense fields of energy around the trees. And if you've seen the the movie Neverending Story, it was kind of like I threw the book at, you know, I tossed it to the floor and said, "This can't be happening." It was quite one of those moments, and I thought, wait a minute, I'm noticing something that I have never experienced. And to just touch on, that was my first experience of perceiving energy fields around me by following a description and a set point of focus and concentration. And that early on continued after reading this book, that I was aware of thoughts or things, what I intend or what I wish to connect with, engages with me, interacts with me, and thusly integrates with me as I walk in this world. And as I continued to practice seeing, I would experience many energetic sensations from trees, with my back towards them or my palms on them, sometimes even just walking by them and feeling that because of a continual connection or communion with them, that if I was in a dense energy field, I would occasionally feel a little tickle towards my feet, as if the tree that I'd been meditating with knew me, as if to say, "Hey Jay, don't worry, it's just one of those human thought things. You don't have to think of the world like that. You can have a lighter perception." And, this world was very difficult to talk about. I didn't really talk about it, and that was the first introduction to realizing I had an energy body and that other things that did not have a human face were sentient and they were conscious. And that brought me to another kind of space, that realizing everything has memories. Inanimate things are filled with energies and stories, and sitting with the awareness that if trees have conscious being and life, other inanimate objects and things of nature, which are composed of minerals and other properties, have another way of communicating, which eventually led me to the world of crystals and using the knowledge I had of trees as seeing, to what my best description is, that there are trees or energetic patterns that are of a tree-like crystalline nature in all things. Trees being my first teacher, I started to see that when I interacted with, insects or flies, or, I would notice their energetic patterns of flight or how they moved. And I would notice this in animals, in birds. I noticed this while staring at birds in flight. I started to notice the same fields around them like trees, and eventually that led me to realizing, perhaps humans can be viewed in a similar nature. And without getting too science-y, or maybe we want to get science-y, it's basically that the toroidal field of a tree is quite a mirror to the toroidal field in a human. And in that knowing, that when I started to tie that to qigong and the awareness of moving my energy, I was laughing quite a lot realizing I had an awareness of this, but now I was being put through these lessons on how to culminate or amass, cultivate energy within my energy body in different ways. And some of those ways being through breath and being aware of the motions of my body, and at certain points had meridians and connections, and basically a similar system of a trunk being the center of the tree and its energy, and thusly everything that moves out beyond it becomes leaves and extensions of that main energy line, which was called just learned this quite recently, the central channel. And I was quite overjoyed because the language that was used, or the analogies that were used, were quite related to nature and trees. So in my first lesson in standing and concentrating on the standing forms, I actually felt like I was moving through the lessons quite naturally. And I thought, had I taken these classes when I was, say, 20-something in 2004, I would be very confused by the explanation of the energy. Though I would be still doing the movements and the postures, which would be the inevitable bridge towards discovering the energy body, I suppose. And in speaking to my instructor, he said that's how it was in a similar fashion for him. There was a lot of the movements and a lot of the practice, a lot of the discipline, and the energy understanding didn't quite pull focus, let's say, until later on. And so it was quite a polar experience where I went the other way, discovering this energy body and sensations through my life experience, realizing a lot of these descriptions correlate to Eastern practices, some of them being in yogi practices and the nadis, the energy centers. And so the last couple of days I was quite overjoyed with realizing my experiences came a different way. And it's much like noticing the breath, the energies, the reflection points, and the vibrations, whether that be sound or a sensation. I was quite in bliss with these connections. The puzzle pieces were all coming together. And yes, it's been helping my breath. There's an exercise where you imagine your stomach is as fat as the laughing Buddha, and you hit it repeatedly, and you say, ha, 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 and you go faster, and you breathe with every, I believe it was in-breath, you hit your stomach, or you imagine that you have a fat golden belly, and that was part of the class that made me laugh almost uncontrollably, and I had to go back to focusing. And that's why I enjoyed this class, which was not completely to a specific structure. It was also loose and seeing what we could go to and what I was understanding. And yeah, even now speaking, I feel the awareness of my my breath is quite constricted in some senses. Trying to explain the experience is not as fun as being in it or just sitting in energy joyfully. But that's the challenge, that when we speak, it's an exercise. I haven't really been using my voice in a while. I had found it actually atrophying when I would do silent practices, where a day of not speaking, my voice, or sometimes I would have two, would atrophy, and I had trouble speaking because I hadn't used my muscles. So another part of this podcast is to help me not just continue to be a hermit and meditate and be in silent bliss, as I'm not here to just live my life in a cave, but to share my joys and hopefully ways of connecting, and in its imperfect way. And so that was some of my continual blissful experience that I had the last couple of days. I'd also like to say hi to Jan and Jessica. Thanks for following. Again, this is Jason of the Vibration of the One podcast. It's 11:44 p.m. It's quite late. I'm stumbling through my words here. I thought maybe I would do a little bit more of a planned one where I'm reading from notes, but I felt as if I didn't talk about this, that my joy of the last day or so would not be in my stories to share, as I would have forgotten already. And that's the joy of presentness. Sometimes I forget what I said, I forgot what was commented, I forgot whatever happened yesterday, because I'm in there right now. And it's quite a funny place to be in sometimes. Often I get, remember you said this once to me, and I said, that's interesting. Are you sure that was me? I don't remember saying that. Or I'm on the phone, it's like, what was that thing you said just now that really clicked with me? And I say, well, I don't completely remember, as long as it did something. That's the point. And yes, again, so new to this, announcements. Well, I have put up the Podbean links on my YouTube channel. I'm thinking about posting this visual component as I'm wearing my cloud pajamas right now, just to show the simplicity and the simple joys when I'm being comfy and not in a state of performing, just wearing a hat, and in my stage that I made, which you may see if you go to my YouTube channel, and it is part of healing, and as an example, the afraid to be seen and the afraid to be judged for our external appearance. I almost said external experience. And, to show people as wonderful as our curated versions and the exactedness of what we want to appear like, that sometimes I just gotta let it simple. Let it simple, let it be simple. So it's 11:47. So there's my cue for the, 25 minutes of sharing. I'd like to thank you for listening. And if you'd like to visit me at my website and other things, it is listed at linktree/vibrationoftheone.com. That's linktr.ee/vibration of the one. And anything else that I thought to say? Yes, well, I can't think of anything to say right now because it is 11:48 p.m. where I promised myself that I would try to turn in at an earlier time. But I did want to get something out, and I felt this was more appropriate than the other topic, which seemed to be a larger topic to speak of. I will add that along with my newfound qigong practices, I've started to exercise a lot more with very light weights and do off-body things like simple push-ups and sit-ups, with the correlating awareness of my breath within that. And one thing I wanted to share, which is kind of a mind shift, is instead of counting reps now, I say a 3-word mantra in the ways of, instead of counting to 3, I say mood follows action. 1, 2, 3. Action follows mood. And that may be 4, 5, 6. And then I say it again. Another 3, that would be 9. And if you want to do a set of 10 reps, then you just add one more lift, right? So I just wanted to mention it just shifted my perspective of reaching the goal of, say, 10 reps. As it gets strenuous with every lift, the mental space causes you more of a challenge. So I just thought, what if I changed it to words that empower me in the moment and thusly move my mood towards a state of improvement rather than a destination, which would be the number that you're aiming for. So that's something that I discovered in the last while, which I felt more empowering and something that I changed. So perhaps that's something that I always want to be doing in this podcast, if there's any sense of value coming from it. And, if you can start a practice, qigong, yoga, just mindful breathing, you can just look stuff up online. I've been doing this roughly since 2004 in my own way, and adding practices having sessions with people, and I find life's serendipitous, synchronistic nature quite joyous and hilarious sometimes. And so, with that, perhaps as I'm staring at my fridge over here, I would just like to say something that I have on my fridge. It says, if you have been rejected many times in your life, then one more rejection isn't going to make much of a difference. If you are rejected, don't automatically assume it's your fault. The other person may have several reasons for you in not doing what you are asking her to do or him to do. None of it may have anything to do with you. Perhaps the person is busy or not feeling well or genuinely not interested in spending time with you. Reflections are part of everyday life. Don't let them bother you. Keep reaching out to others. Keep reaching out to others. When you begin to receive positive responses, then you are on the right track. It's all a matter of numbers. Count the positive responses and forget about the rejections. And I believe that quote was from Noam Chomsky, I believe. And it's just something I found that I stuck in my fridge, and if a friend calls me and they're feeling down and out, rejected, sometimes I read that to them, and hopefully helps them out a bit. That it's just one moment. You'll move on to the next moment. So I will end this now. It's almost 12 a.m. I am half asleep. Perhaps on my next podcast, I will do it in the morning, but seemingly the day is so busy that to get a quiet space seems to be more favorable to the night. So again, this is Jason, Vibration of the One, wishing you a good night. If you wish to check out anything else I'm doing, I have the links on my Podbean. I've already read them out. If you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel, click the button, the notification bell. I'm going to start posting the video component to these podcasts there. I even forgot that I had one, and it's strange to see myself. But I guess that's a good sign that I really got into just channeling my experience. So have a good one, and much love, peace throughout your day. Get a pleasant rest. Eat some good foods. Incorporate probiotics. That's another thing I've been doing. Sauerkraut, and I've written a bunch of reminders on my fridge to eat 30 different kinds of vegetables to get the full balance there. So that's something that I will speak of in the next one. So, good night. Pleasant dreams. Keep dreaming. Astral traveling if you do. I am going to sign off.